uh, if your job is the definition of what is at the center of what you're doing, then your job is defining the limits of your personal growth. And that's not a particularly great place to be. I would suggest to you that the better place to be is to instead move to a place where your career is at the center of it, and that your job is one of the planets orbiting your career. This concept that your career, your long-term goals in life professionally is at the heart of what you're doing for your learning, not just what you're doing today. Because if you're only ever worried about skilling up for the job you have today, you will never grow beyond the job you have today. So we want to look beyond that. Now, why do we think about this and talk about this at this point? Well, the answer is because of the fact that iterations work, right? We like setting goals at the start of a new year because of the fact that this concept of it's a new year, this is a new iteration, we should be going in a new direction. That is something that we all as humans understand and work well with. So every year is built out of 365 days. That is a huge number of potential iterations. As a matter of fact, it's too big. We simply cannot plan 365 iterations of what we're doing. It's too much for us to grasp and plan, too much detail, and it isn't a workable model for how to do this. But as we know, every year is built of 12 months. 12 iterations is interesting. It's a good option for how we could approach this, but it's still a big number of things when you're looking at something that you're not working at 8 hours a day on a regular basis, right? So instead, I tend to suggest that we focus on quarterly learnings, right? Quarterly plans. Now, a quarter gives you a nice, definable, short, you're going to feel the end of that coming here any moment now, but it gets you beyond the, I can't accomplish this in the next month, right? And gets you to, I can move things substantively in my learning time across the length of a quarter. So if that's our goal, if we try to focus in on the quarter as the point of iteration, then it's time to actually go ahead and set some goals, right? Let's actually go and talk about what goals do we want to accomplish inside of that.
Hey, Tom.
Yes, sir.
I don't think we see your slides.
Okay. Let me reshare my screen. There we go. Resharing now.
I can see it.
Okay. Very good. Apologies. I don't know. There was a flicker of change of stuff at one point, and I suspect that was the cause when I lost slides. All right. So let's talk about what we could be learning now, right? Like, what do we want to learn as the things that we want to focus on? There are so many options in this space, right? We certainly could, if you're a developer or someone who is working on the technical side of the IT industry, you could absolutely choose, hey, we're going to work on languages, right? We want to learn a new language. We want to learn a new framework. We want to work on learning a new business domain. Maybe you're like healthcare or energy, or travel is an industry I want to learn, or a business domain I want to learn. You could learn more about that. You could develop your soft skills, your managerial skills, your interpersonal skills. And then finally, of course, processes and tools, right? Like you could decide that I want to learn more about Visual Studio. You could learn more about Scrum or Kanban or all of those things that go with that. The real point here is that we need to look beyond this to thinking about where do we want to grow, right? Where are we trying with a career-centric mindset, not a job-centric mindset? How do we take that concept and go, what should I be learning? You know, am I in a situation that the next job I'd really like to have would require me to know a business domain more or have better soft skills? Or maybe it's going to require me to grow my understanding of architecture diagramming. So I need to learn tooling around that to begin to move up and advance. Whatever that is, whatever those things that you need to develop are, let's focus on developing those skills, because it's not going to happen by accident. It simply isn't, right? So we need to find those, be looking ahead and setting goals that allow us to learn the things we want to learn to accomplish what we want to accomplish in our lives. At a minimum, some amount of your learning does need to be invested into keeping your current skills sharp. If you're working in Java, working in Kotlin, working in Android, working in iOS, all of those frameworks are moving on a regular basis. You should spend some of your time just keeping your current skills relevant, moving with the platforms that you know already, so that you do not fall behind. Because that is a real risk in our industry, is simply staying where you are is actually falling backwards because the industry is moving forward. There's a amazing set of videos. I should have included some snippets in here from that have been done on YouTube about maritime searches and the concept of doing a search grid and finding something that's lost on land is very easy because of the terrain itself is not moving. When you lose something in the water, if you have a person lost in the water, if you have a boat lost in the water, the currents are moving this thing along from wherever the initial point of loss happened. So it might have been here, but it's going to be moving even without intention of moving. The industry is moving on us in the IT world and is constantly shifting away from us. And we have to adjust for that in our learning plans and keep up with that movement at a minimum, just to stay at the same point that we are now. Now, the good news is there are a ridiculous number of tools to help us go achieve this, right? This virtual lunch and learn series that we do at Improving is one of those tools. It is a form of online learning that can help you continue to stay sharp and learn new things. And that's exactly why we do them. But there are, also amazing other resources. I had somebody tell me the other day that the greatest invention of the post-pandemic era might be the rediscovery of public libraries. And just wow, there's all this content. It's out there, it's maintained, it's done. When was the last time you walked into one and said, I need a book on X, right? Now, there are also training courses. Improving does a bunch of these. If you're looking for formal training courses, you should absolutely do that. And then there's mentorship. Mentors are a great way to continue to learn and grow. They are a tool. They are not going to get you there by yourself. Nothing about a tool is going to get the job done by itself. These tools that are in the toolbox behind this slide are never going to build a building, build a shed, build your next woodworking project. They're not going to do any of that without someone to pick them up and use them, and that is you. Okay, so these tools are great, but remember that many a person has bought the Pluralsight subscription, started attending a training course, and then never put those things into practice, and as such got no use out of having the tool. Owning the tool is not using the tool. So we need to plan to not only know what our tools are, but then make a plan to actually use them. And that's because of the fact that a goal without a plan is just a wish. So lots of people wish they could get that next job. Lots of people say, I've got a goal to go, run the Boston Marathon, or learn how to architect large distributed systems, or get into mobile app development, or move from being a Scrum Master to being an Agile coach. All of these are perfectly great goals. But after you set a goal, now you have to move that into a plan that will get you there. So we're going to talk a little bit about what are the tools that help you take a goal and make it something that is actually achievable. So for a long time, Improving has been internally a fan of this very well-established framework for setting goals, which is the concept that a goal should be a SMART goal. And SMART is an acronym. It stands for that the goal should be specific, it should be measurable, it should be achievable, it should be realistic, and it should be timely. So the first thing is the goal should be specific. Getting in shape. I'll use the classic New Year's options here. Getting in shape is not specific, right? You need to say, what do you mean by getting in shape? What specifically is going to change? Oh, I want to lose weight. Okay, losing weight is specific. Now, is it measurable? Do we have a way to actually measure success? Now, losing weight's a great example of this because it is also a measurable thing. So I want to lose 50 pounds. Big goal, but okay, let's take that. Is it achievable? The 50 pounds is a lot. 50 pounds is like 4 and a fraction pounds per month. Most doctors would tell you that anything beyond 5 is unrealistic for most people in weight change per month. Okay, and leaving yourself only that fractional difference between 4 and a fraction and 5 really means you'd have to be almost perfect. So is it achievable? Yes, it's probably achievable. The doctors say you could do that. Is it realistic? That fractional amount doesn't feel particularly realistic. It's a point where I would say maybe the proper plan here is to choose to do a goal of 36 pounds for the year. That gets you a movement that pulls you down a significant chunk, but gives you the ability to allow for, I faltered 1 month and only lost a pound, so now I can rally back and inside that 5 max and still hit things while maintaining a realistic goal. And then, is it timely? Is it not only good that I be doing it, but that I be doing it right now? Now, this is for weight loss. This is a great example of the doctors will always tell you, yes, the right time to lose weight is now. Okay. Now let's talk about this instead in learning goals, right? If we say not life goals, like weight loss, but I want to learn a new language. Well, that's not specific. Let's instead say that I want to learn Kotlin specifically. And so, all right, learning Kotlin. Is that measurable? If I could hello world in Kotlin, I could in theory say I learned Kotlin, right? So that makes me go back and iterate on this goal and say, be able to launch an Android application that I wrote in the App Store, written in Kotlin, that is a game or a tool or some other thing, right? Some very specific project. Okay, Now I have something that's specific enough that it is also measurable. Is it achievable inside the year of writing an application in Kotlin on Android? Is absolutely achievable. Is it realistic? That comes down to your life and your time. Do you have the time you can block away to dedicate to that type of learning to be able to consistently move the ball forward on achieving that goal? Assuming it is it timely? This again is going to depend on your situation. Is now the right time to learn mobile application development? Or is there something more important that you should be spending learning time on? So think through this smart structure as you start to think about what your learning goals are, right? And ask yourself each of these things. Is it specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely? Now, let's talk about how we get there across the whole year. At the start of the year, right, we want to be able to set big, smart goals for the year. What am I trying to accomplish and learn and grow in this year? We have 1 year. We might have multiple learning goals, but we have the 1 year to work that within. Now, from that 1 year, we now start talking about what are those 4 quarters, right? What are the 4 big steps to achieve that goal? What are those big epics, if you will, in the delivery of this? What am I trying to set out as my plan to get there in 4 large steps that are each going to take about 3 months? From there, you start realizing, hey, every quarter has 13 weeks in it, right? What are the steps? Let's task out those steps and figure out what we're going to do in each of those weeks to be able to move forward. Give yourself some grace and slack here. Perfection is not reality. There are 13 weeks, but you might only have the ability to dedicate time in 6 of them. Be realistic about your ability to dedicate consistent time. You have lots of things on your plate if you're like most people who have family, who have everything else going on. Choose wisely in how you break this thing down. And then finally, every one of those days, you've got 7 days to go execute on, right? Learning is not a 9 to 5, 5 days a week business job thing. We need to look beyond that and start asking ourselves the question, how do I grow into a plan that lets me execute this at a pace I can actually meet, that I can actually achieve? Unrealistic goals are a major demotivator for people. There are entire industries built on trying to get you to pay for a subscription model at the start of the year that you will have ignored by February, okay? Gyms, online learning courses, things like that are all trying to get money out of your pocket and into theirs while you're doing this. Learning does not have to require those sorts of outlays. It may, but the big thing is be realistic. Be realistic to what you can actually achieve. One of my mentors has this great adage. He says, I would rather have a goal that I am going to knock out of the park and turn into a home run than one that I'm going to struggle to pull across the line. Because succeeding at goals is the best thing to get you to set another goal. There's lots of study that's been done when they're looking at very successful people, and one of the things that consistently comes back out of this the examination of the lives of very successful people has year over year been that very successful people, when they wake up, make their bed. And you might look at that and go, how is that relevant? And the humorous thing is it sets up that positive reinforcement. The very first thing a lot of successful people do every single day is make their bed because now they've accomplished something. They haven't even left their bedroom. They may not have been dressed yet, but they have accomplished something today. They did make their bed. This positive reinforcement of hitting the endorphin rush that comes from succeeding at things is the most important piece to how we learn and how we grow. Set goals, set tasks that are achievable, that reinforce your ability and desire to come back and continue to achieve. Nothing builds success like success is an adage, and that's what it's at the heart of this. If you feel like you're being successful, you will continue to do this thing and continue to be successful. If you get into telling yourself a story of like, well, I didn't do this yesterday, so I can't possibly start now, right? That you have to set aside the history. History is history. If you were unsuccessful every day of the year until December 31st, and you're like, today I'm going to sit down and learn on that thing that I said I was going to learn on in January, great. That's success for that day. Think about that on a daily basis. Your motivation drives on a daily basis, not on a weekly basis, not on a quarterly basis, not on a yearly basis. On a daily basis, do I feel like I'm being successful? And if you monitor and control and look at your motivation and keeping your motivation behind your various goals, that on a daily basis, you will look back at the end of the year and say, my goodness, I achieved those big goals. And it was done through a combination of both thinking about it, setting those goals, and then monitoring my time, attention, and motivation in that space to make sure that I'm moving appropriately. Now, if you're in the IT space, another way to think about this, if it helps you, is we're talking about set a project, set some releases, define some sprints, and then go deliver on that on a weekly basis, right? This is iterations work, right? Iterations work for humans. You're not going to deliver the big goal in one big heroic swoop. You're going to deliver it as a sequence of small steps to get you there. Let's look at what those steps are and plan for them accordingly so that we can get there by the end of the year. So it's relatively short, it's relatively sweet, but this is how I recommend doing learning goals. And so my challenge to you is to take some time today, take the rest of your lunch hour today, and sit down and start thinking, what are my learning goals? What are the things I want to learn this year that are going to help my career, that might also help my job, but that are going to help my career and help me grow and develop into a better version of me and a more successful version of me that we can then turn into that pattern of behavior across this year to actually move forward on this. So that's everything I have for you today. Nick, did we have any questions come in during the session?
Hey, Tim. So far we don't have any questions. I guess I have a question though.
Sure.
So when you contemplate, and you have to make time for yourself, and I think that's the key, right? Is loving yourself enough to plan for yourself and for your family, right? If you have one. How do you look at the time of the day that you start? Because I hear a lot of discussions about maybe I should be waking up earlier to address these. Do you look at that, and how do you consider that into your planning?
So I'm going to be honest, Nick. The people who get caught up in the time management aspect of goal setting, I think, are barking up the wrong tree. Okay, I think that there are certainly realities to time management, and I understand that. But really, goal setting and achieving anything that you're going to set a big goal about is much more about attention management than it is about time management. Okay, it's not am I maximizing the number of hours in my day? Time management, right? It is, am I maximizing the use of the time I have in my day by focusing my attention and making sure that when I am focused on learning, I'm learning. When I'm focused on delivering for my job, I'm delivering on my job, right? And I'm avoiding distractions. I'm avoiding the joy of the mobile phone and infinitely scrolling on Facebook and Instagram and all of those other wonderful distractions that exist in our lives, right? And trying to get down to, I am making the best use of my time, right? Now, is it also a reality that most very successful people that I know are early risers? Yes. Okay, they are, right? Is that for everyone? No, not necessarily, right? I think that before I worry about time management, I worry about attention management.
That's some good advice. I think because I've tried it well, the normal way, which is more attention based, right? And then it's the other way where you start waking up really early and you start attacking what some of your tasks are. There is a bit of adjustment. I mean, when you start, say, like if you wake up at 5 a.m., I mean, you're going to bed at 9 p.m. or earlier, right? So those that have a family need to consider,
Yeah.
right?
Well, and that's
the
why
responsibilities.
time management, like perfect time management, right? Quote unquote. Like if you get like the least aggressive sleepers I know, right, are 5 to 6 hours, right, of time out of their day. So let's say it's 6. So you have 18 hours, right? It really doesn't matter when those 18 hours start, right? Like it's going to be 18 regardless, right? There's a little bit that factors into that, to the concept of, when am I body more productive, right? Understanding the physicality of me, right? And then understanding the social, right? Like I can't go to bed at 6 o'clock if I have kids who I need to put to bed at 7, right? Like that's
Right.
that doesn't work, okay? Even if midnight to 6 a.m. is a highly productive time for me, if I sleep from 6 p.m. to midnight, right? Like that doesn't work, right? It again, there's no beating the clock, right? So don't manage the time, manage your attention, because you can maximize your attention, right? The clock is going to be the clock. No matter what you think, Bezos, Gates, Height, everybody gets the same 24 hours that everybody else does. Nobody gets the 25th hour, right? So
That's true. All righty. All right, I'm going to open it up. Let's see. I don't see any other questions.
all right.
And with that though, go ahead, Tim. Did you have any final?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, Tim, thank you for an awesome talk today. Thank you for kind of resetting us and rebooting us. We might need this one more time this month as we get started in 2023. We're always happy to have you here. Welcome back. And to everyone on call, we thank you for joining us today. The recording of the session will be available on improving.com virtual events. That'll be posted here in a little bit. So just keep an eye out for the next virtual lunch and learn. We have every Wednesday from noon to 1 Central Standard Time. Again, we look forward to having you join us next time. Until then, make it a great week, everybody. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.